The poor fear losing money. The rich fear missing opportunities. How the financially struggling and successful investors view risk differently. What are you most afraid of when you think about money? When you think about money, what scares you the most? Is it the fear of losing your hard-earned savings, or the nagging feeling that you're missing out on a chance to change your life? Millions of people across the US and Canada who live with financial fear every single day. But here's the bigger question. Is your fear pushing you forward or trapping you in a cycle of scarcity? Think about it. The poor, or rather, those struggling financially, often fear losing money. They cling tightly to a few $1,000s in the bank, avoid all risks, and prioritize safety above everything. But the rich, the most successful investors, what do they fear? Not losing money. They fear missing opportunities. Opportunities to invest, to learn, to make their money grow. This difference in how they view risk is the key that separates two worlds, one of scarcity, the other of prosperity. I get you. You work hard, try to save, but inflation at 4% in 2025 is quietly eroding your money, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. You hear about stocks, real estate, or crypto, but every step feels like a gamble. What if I lose everything? That question haunts you, making you hesitate, even freeze. You're not alone. But if you keep letting the fear of losing money drive you, you might be missing the biggest opportunities of your life. Here's my promise. If you watch this video to the end, I'll reveal 5 major differences in how the poor and the rich approach risk. These aren't just theories. They're practical lessons drawn from successful investors, from Wall Street titans to self-made millionaires. You'll learn how to shift from fearing financial loss to embracing a mindset that hunts for opportunity, even if you're starting with just $500. We'll count down these 5 differences, from how they face failure to how they turn risk into an advantage. Ready to uncover the mindset of the wealthiest? Let's start with the first difference, a perspective on risk that most of us get wrong from the very beginning. Five key differences in how risk is viewed. You're here because you want more, not just to survive, but to thrive, like the most successful investors. The difference between the poor and the rich isn't just the money in their accounts. It's how they see risk. The poor fear losing money, so they avoid action. The rich fear missing opportunities, so they seize them, even when there's risk. Let's count down the 5 key differences in their risk mindset. Each one is a piece of the puzzle, and when you put them together, you'll see the path to overcoming fear and building wealth. Difference number 5. The poor avoid failure. The rich learn from it. Most of us are taught that failure is terrifying. If you invest $1,000 in a stock and lose 50%, it feels like a disaster. According to a 2025 Bankrate survey, 60% of Americans avoid investing because they're afraid of losses. The result? They keep their money in savings accounts, where 4% inflation cuts the real value by $400 a year on $10,000. Why is fearing failure wrong? It paralyzes you. You don't invest, you don't learn, and you don't grow. Meanwhile, the rich see failure as a lesson. A Harvard Business Review study found that 70% of self-made millionaires failed at least once in investing or business, but they used those experiences to refine their strategies. The rich start small, experiment, and learn. For example, they might put $500 into an ETF, watch the market, and adjust. If they lose, they analyze the mistake, not quit. You can start with $100 in an S&P 500 index fund through an app like Robinhood. If the market dips, see it as a chance to buy more at a discount. The lesson? Don't fear failure. Fear not learning from it. Difference number 4. The poor keep money safe. The rich invest in opportunities. The poor often hoard cash or park it in savings for safety. But according to the Federal Reserve, the average U.S. savings account pays just 0.4% interest, while 4% inflation erodes value by 3.6% annually. With $10,000, You lose $360 in real value each year. Why is keeping money safe wrong? It doesn't grow, and you miss out on compound interest, the financial magic the rich leverage. A Vanguard study shows the S&P 500 index fund has averaged 8% annual returns over the past 50 years. The rich invest in opportunities, even if there's risk. They put money into index funds, real estate, or small businesses. For example, $1,000 in an S&P 500 ETF at 8% grows to $4,661 in 20 years. You can start with $50 a month through Fidelity. The lesson? Don't hoard money. Let it work for you. Difference number 3. The poor fear market volatility. The rich buy when markets crash. When the stock market drops 10%, the poor panic. A 2025 Morningstar survey found that 50% of individual investors sell during volatility, locking in losses. They see risk as a threat, not an opportunity. Why is fearing volatility wrong? Markets always fluctuate, but history shows they recover. S&P 500 data reveals that after every crash, 2008, 2020, markets hit new highs within 3 to 5 years. The rich know this and act against the crowd. The rich buy when markets are red. They use dollar-cost averaging, investing regularly, like $200 a month into an index fund, regardless of price. When markets drop, they buy more for the same money. You can start with $25 a month through Acorns. The lesson? Volatility is your friend, not your enemy. Difference number 2. The poor seek short-term safety. The rich embrace long-term risk. The poor prioritize immediate safety, holding cash, avoiding all risks. But short-term safety often leads to long-term losses due to inflation. In contrast, the rich embrace long-term risk, knowing time smooths out volatility. Forbes 2024 reports that 80% of millionaires invest in long-term growth assets like index funds or real estate. Why is seeking short-term safety wrong? It blocks you from compound interest. A $5,000 investment at 8% grows to $23,305 in 20 years, but in cash, it's worth only $3,000 in real value due to inflation. The rich invest in long-term assets like ETFs or REITs. They're patient, knowing markets rise over time. You can start with $500 in a REIT through Vanguard, generating 4% passive income annually. The lesson? Embrace long-term risk to build wealth. Difference number 1. The poor let fear lead. The rich use fear as fuel. This is the biggest difference. The poor let fear of losing money control them. They don't act, don't invest, and stay stuck. A 2025 Gallup poll shows 65% of Americans avoid investing due to fear of risk. The rich, however, use fear of missing opportunities to drive action. They know doing nothing is the greatest risk. Why is letting fear lead wrong? It robs you of wealth potential. If you don't invest $100 a month in an 8% index fund from age 25, you miss $150,000 by age 55. The rich turn fear into motivation to learn and act. The rich educate themselves, reading books like The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham, and start small. They set long-term goals and act despite fear. You can start with $50 in an index fund and learn through YouTube or books. The lesson? Don't let fear stop you. Let it push you. ##### Part 3. Start today and rethink risk. We've just uncovered 5 key differences in how the poor and the rich view risk. Learning from failure instead of avoiding it. Investing in opportunities instead of keeping money safe. Buying when markets crash instead of panicking. Embracing long-term risk instead of short-term safety. And using fear as fuel instead of letting it lead. These aren't just tactics. They're a mindset, a way of seeing the world that separates scarcity from prosperity. The rich weren't born with this mindset. They forged it through failure, learning, and action. They're not smarter than you, not luckier than you. They just dare to face risk differently. While 65% of Americans avoid investing out of fear, per Gallup, successful investors turn the fear of missing opportunities into a reason to act. They know the greatest risk isn't losing money. It's losing their own potential. Here's the good news. You don't need tens of thousands of dollars or a finance degree to start. Just by understanding these differences, you're already ahead of 90% of people letting fear call the shots. You don't need $10,000, just $50 a month in an index fund, $500 in a REIT, or an hour a week learning about finance can be your first step. Financial freedom doesn't come overnight, but it starts with a choice today. To learn from failure, seize opportunities, and stay patient. You don't need to be a millionaire tomorrow. You just need to start the journey, right now, with the mindset of the rich. This path won't be easy. Markets will swing, friends might mock you for playing it safe with index funds, and fear will always lurk. But you're stronger than that. Your drive, your determination, your desire to control your future, these are powerful tools. Pair them with this mindset, and you'll watch your wealth grow, step by step, day by day, just like the most successful investors have done. If these differences changed how you see risk, if they sparked a fire to act like the rich, consider subscribing to the channel. This is where we unpack hidden financial truths. No ads, no fluff, just knowledge to take charge. Has fear ever held you back from a financial decision? Drop your story in the comments. I'd love to hear your experience. The final question isn't how much money you'll make. It's whether you'll let the fear of losing money lead you, or let the fear of missing opportunities drive you. What's your first step?